What's up, everyone? Monday night edition of the Throttled Roots podcast, and a little different from our Thirsty Thursday that we get cracking over here. But when you have an opportunity to get someone on, someone that you've been wanting to talk to and sit down with, you take advantage of the opportunity. So, um, some of you guys may think and believe that pigs are flying now because Daniel and Daniel from Proper Baggers and I are sitting on a podcast together. And it's been a little bit of a, you can call it a rough road, a little bit of a patchy road, I guess you can say. But I think it speaks a lot of volumes for somebody to be able to come and sit down and put all that stuff behind and, be able to have a good dialogue, a good conversation about our history, our culture, what it is that we're doing and we're living, because we all have a common interest. We all have a common theme of motorcycles, and Daniel is on the performance, side of it. So I am excited for this one. I hope you guys are just as excited as well. There's been a lot of, tonight's the night. Looking forward to it. So I know I am excited for this conversation. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a fun one. If you guys don't know, Daniel is the man, the face behind the Instagram page, Proper Baggers. If you don't know what Proper Baggers is, you might have been sleeping under a rock, to say the least. So this one's going to be a fun one. Let me get Daniel in here really quick, and let's kick this one off. Daniel.
Yes, sir.
What's up, my man? How you doing?
I'm good, you, Ray.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's I think this is I think it's fair to say a long time coming. Maybe we this is good to have this conversation, and a lot of people are going to look at this and go, what the hell's going on? Because they know a little bit of our past, and a lot of people don't. A lot of people are unfamiliar with it. There's a small niche, I guess you can call it, within our circle that are a little familiar with our history and our past. But I want to say thank you, man. It speaks a lot of volume, a lot of character of the type of person that you are, and vice versa, to be able to kind of just say, hey, differences aside, men can still have a conversation. It can still kind of hash things out and talk when everything's said and done, man. So thank you.
Yeah, like we Ray, I think I would say we've probably known each other before I even had this page, because I might have started following you before I even had a page, and I just had a bike. And whatever bullshit there was between us, where it came from, where it ended, where it started, who knows, who cares? For me, who knows, who cares?
Yeah.
You hit me up a few weeks ago to talk about bikes, and your timing was really good. It's like, Daniel, let's just put the shit behind us and talk about bikes. And that's something I'm always interested in talking about. Bikes, the scenes, the people, what's changed. From two people who've seen this, who've watched this shit grow. For me, I've been watching since 17, 18. You've been watching it before I have. There's been a lot of changes. Everything has changed. So your time, you hit me up, you're like, Daniel, let's just put everything behind us. Let's just talk about what's going on. Your timing couldn't have been better, because I was really like, you hit me up when I was in Daytona. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of shit. Everything is different. I'm down to talk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and as they say, man, timing is everything, right? That's really what it boils down to. I know, speaking on that, I know if we would have had the conversation maybe before, when I kind of teased it and hit you up about it, I definitely think I know for a fact it wouldn't have been a very valuable, there wouldn't have been a good, context to that conversation. It was, I think there were still feelings or something on probably both ends. I think that's fair to say, so things change, things perspire, and here we are, man. So I am definitely glad that you came on. I'm excited for it. And you know what? I don't know if this is going to make you big headed or make you feel, this is the first time that I normally with my podcast, I kind of just, I do a little recon on my guest and stuff, just so I have something to bite into. But I wanted this one to really be valuable content, valuable conversation. So I actually did a little prep work for this one, believe it or not, man. So I know a little bit out of my,
I'm honored.
My style, I guess, but I wanted to, I wanted to make sure that I hit on some things with you on both of our ends. So that's why I went through this, man. So I'm honored.
I wish I had a cooler background than my house here. I've talking to you. We delayed this. I was sick for a while. My motorcycle's still in Florida. It hasn't even been sent back up to Montreal. So I've been stuck in my house for a week. I wish I had a cooler background than my just my grayish painted house. So
No, it's all good, man. The reality of it is really about the
mhm,
conversation, so people can hear this and
mhm,
backgrounds aside and all that shit, man. That makes no
mhm,
difference, man. So,
mhm.
I wanted just to kind of a little context for people.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit. You and I have gone. I say, when do you think we kind of crossed paths? When do you think that was?
It had to be 18 maybe, somewhere
Probably.
around then. That's when I started building my bike. You had your bike at the time for sure. Um, that's when I fell on this type of like genre motorcycle, probably 16, 17.
Okay.
Um, and that's when kind of, yeah, as you know, I was on a big wheel in 16, then I switched over to my Road Glide in around 17, 18. And that's when I really kind of went deep into it. And back then, there was how many of us were there? There were 20 of us. You know what I mean? There were very few of us, especially guys online who were talking about it online, posting pictures online, building bikes. I feel like everybody knew everybody back then. You know what I mean? We're talking 6 years ago now. And they're literally like, there were less than 100 of us out there, at least it
Yeah.
feels like it.
And I think that's probably a better a good way to put it, because it was a
Mhm,
little bit more, I guess we can call it niche. There was
mhm,
definitely, it wasn't, we're gonna dive into it. I
mhm.
don't it wasn't mainstream. I think
No.
like it is now.
Mhm.
And we're gonna walk through the progression of this stuff.
It
But
was
yeah,
hated. Everybody hated our shit back then. I remember posting on, like, the Road Glide forums. I got kicked off of every Road Glide forum because I would post my bike, and they would talk so much shit about it, and I'd be like, "Bring it on, you fuckers, let's go," and I would get thrown out of we were all thrown out of and we would all defend each other, and we'd all get thrown out of these forums for it. It was ridiculous.
yeah, it was definitely a different time, man. I think 2015, 2016, somewhere around there, I threw T-bars on my Road Glide, and
Mhm,
I got, first of all, let me just say this. Back in
mhm,
2016, I was a lot younger and a lot thinner.
mhm,
But let's see, 2007. I was about 32, 33 years old. Okay.
mhm,
And back then, you fill me in, you correct me if I'm wrong, but
mhm,
there was, they were called grandpa back, your grandpa bikes. If you were under
mhm,
40 and you owned a bagger, it was just, you were looked at a little bit different. You were kind of maybe mocked or ridiculed just a little bit, because
mhm,
you're like, you're how old and you have a grandpa
mhm,
glide is
mhm,
what you have. And so when I started throwing T-bars on my stuff, yeah, you're absolutely right. I
mhm,
got a little side eye. I got, well, what the hell's that?
mhm,
What are you doing? What is that all about?
mhm,
So
mhm,
by all means, 2016, yeah, 15, around there, a little bit different scene, a little bit different
mhm,
style that was, or culture that was kind of cultivating. It was just kind of getting
mhm.
off the ground and stuff. So,
Yeah.
but I want to ask, you mentioned a little bit about, you came from a big wheel and stuff. And I had a
Mhm,
big wheel too, man. I've been very
mhm,
vocal about that.
mhm,
I owned one. I also owned a Dyna at the same time. I had a big
mhm.
wheel because I wanted, like, fuck, dude, that thing they look, I like long and low,
Yeah.
whether that's a seat.
Yeah. We're
Yeah,
car guys. I don't know about you, I'm a car guy, long and low. I've
long and
been
low.
lowering cars, even the cars I have now are lowered. I've never owned a car that wasn't lowered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that kinda just flowed into, like, why I wanted a big wheel, and, they were
Mhm,
the thing, and they were the hot ticket, so to speak. But I've
mhm,
65 C10, I got a long bed, long,
mhm,
low, lead sled type vehicles. That line and that
mhm,
symmetry just kind of fit me, and so that's why I was like, "I'm gonna throw one of those in the stable for myself," you know?
mhm,
And eventually it started kind of evolving into me. I was running with a different crowd. I was doing, I was involved in certain stuff where riding hard was an
mhm.
everyday thing. And we're talking 85, 90,
Yeah.
fucking 6 inches from each other's tire. We're riding hard, and riding that style of bike. Eventually, that's why I picked up the Dyna, because
Mhm,
riding that way with that style of bike just wasn't going to cut it for me.
mhm,
So eventually it kind of
mhm,
just started making its progression. So I wanted to ask, so people have a little bit of context,
mhm,
and myself included, because
mhm,
I don't know your full history of riding. Kind
mhm,
of, where did your two-wheel kind of venture start? Whether it was Harley, whatever it was, where and when did
mhm.
that start?
So I've only ever ridden a Harley. I've never owned anything that wasn't a Harley. I was born into a Harley family. My dad's had a bike my whole life. He was in a club. I grew up around bikers my whole life. Um, Not like a club, but he was in a club. You know what I mean? And but I was never into it. That was never my thing. I was always a car guy. Every type of car. I've built lowriders. I've built mini trucks. I've built Euros. Like everything. Like tuner cars. 30, 40 cars I've built in my life. And if you look at my personal page, you see it's mostly cars, not even bikes. And then I started riding I'm turning 50 this year. I'm an old man. So I started riding like my mid 30s. I never wanted to get on a bike before that. I had no interest in being on a bike because I wasn't, I think, ready for it. And then a buddy of mine called me. It's the type of thing, like if you're born into a motorcycle family, eventually you'll end up on the bike. I was just never ready. And then my first bike I bought was a Sportster. Obviously, everybody bought a Sportster. And then I picked up a Sportster 48, which is the first bike that I loved, like when they just came out. And I built that. I had that for like a year, and then I jumped on a Dyna. I was on a Dyna for a couple of years, like everybody. And then from the Dyna, I jumped on the Street Glide, which is what I built my big wheel out of. But I always said the big difference between cars and bikes is you build a car and they're usually shitty to drive after you build them. When you build a bike, the best part of building a bike is like the best part of the build is the riding. Like even my big wheel, I rode my big wheel on Tail of the Dragon. I rode it across country. It was banged up. I had it for 4 years. I live in Canada too. You only ride 5 months of the year. It had 50,000 kilometers, so 30,000 miles on it in the 4 years I had it. All my friends are on sport bikes. Sport bike, maybe not sport bikes. They're on adventure bikes or upright sport bikes, but now they're more on Harleys. Back then, none of them were on Harleys, so I was on the big wheel. Everybody was making fun of me driving this stupid bike, but I liked the way it looked. It was long, it was low, it was cool, and I rode it. And I rode it everywhere. I did a lot of mileage on that big wheel, and I took it across country. I shipped it to different places, and I would ride it back. Luckily, I never had issues on it. And then I built another couple bikes along the way. I built a hardtail, a couple choppers and stuff like that. But the Road Glide, my current bike is I'd say it's by far my favorite because it rides so good. I get people coming up to me all the time and they're like, "Oh, nice show bike," or "You're gonna put, you're in a show." They're like, "You're gonna put that in the show?" And I'm like, I guess. I don't ever enter it to shows. I'm always at shows, but I never actually enter it in the show because I don't really care about the show. But I would say it looks better than it rides better than it looks. Don't let it fool you. It looks pretty. You still want it to look pretty, but it rides so much better than it looks. It's always got to ride. So yeah, that's short story long. I've been riding about 12, 15 years now.
Okay.
Very big rider, very avid rider, huge fanatic. Started the page just because I'm a huge motorcycle fan and I'm a fan of Harleys, and I don't know anything else. I know nothing else. I've thought about getting on adventure bikes, too short to touch the ground, so it never really went that way. But I am a true Harley fan, and I'll probably only ever be on a Harley. It's just because that's all I know. It's in me, and it's in me from my father. And like I feel like I couldn't ride something else. I'm not saying it's impossible, but
No, of course, yeah, no, and we relate in that sense. I didn't. I wish I could have started on a Harley and straight out the gate, but I was young when I got on wheels. I was 17, 18 years old when I got on wheels, and I couldn't afford a Harley back then. It was a different time for me, and so I would always talk. Yeah, I'd rest in peace, old man. But he'd always give me shit because I started on a street bike because I think that's where a lot of people do start simply because it's cheaper, it's what you can afford, it's just kind of the gateway, so to speak. And so I started there, and I remember my old man just busting my balls all the time, like that piece of shit, and then
Rice Rocket, yeah,
exactly, sure. and exactly, and what he, we would always have our little banter, and I would tell him, I'll see you at the spot, because I'd just be hauling ass and doing all that. But deep down inside, I remember looking at him and just fucking seeing him on that bike and that chrome and that sound and that and just looking over and going,
the bars like this.
He just looks like a badass, man. He just looks fucking cool, man. And then you'd kind of look around and you'd see not necessarily the attention, but nobody's looking at me on my street bike. They're looking at the chrome shining and the Harley sound. And I would hold it in for the longest time. I'd always give them the shit, but deep down inside, I knew, I'm like, I want a Harley. That's what it is that I want. So I was kind of the same. I worked my way up to them eventually, and but there's something about a Harley. So I feel you on it. I get it. There's a certain machismo. I don't know, whatever we want to kind of define it as.
There's like everything else, and then there's a Harley. Like you say to when somebody will say to you, You know, they look at you, they see tattoos, your beard, they see something like, oh, you know, they think you ride them. What do you do? What's your hobby? Oh, I ride a motorcycle. And what do you ride? You're like, I ride a Harley. That's like that. You could say anything else, Honda, Kawasaki, nobody cares. You say a Harley, they're like, oh yeah, I ride a Harley. And it's like, I guess it's ingrained in you. Like I don't know. For me, it was always a Harley. And like I said, I'm not saying I would never get on anything else, and I'm sure everything does ride better. I have no doubt. But it doesn't matter. It's just it's for me, it's part of me. It's in my family. So that like there is no, I don't look anywhere else. I realize everybody is better. Nobody's fooling anybody. I'm sure they're better. I just have no interest. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
No,
Mhm,
it's and I've done, we have the Rock Store and Neptunes, and when we go to these
mhm.
places, you see
Yeah, I've been there.
every style of bike that's out there,
Mhm,
and trust me, I'm a motorcycle geek, so I can
mhm,
geek out on every single one of them. I on an Indian, on a Yamaha Cafe Racer, an enduro bike, I can geek out on every single one of them, and I can appreciate every single one of them. But when it boils down to it, yeah, it's a Harley for me. There's just something that comes along with it, and I
yep,
think it's. I mean, I've been in the rice, or whatever you want
mhm,
to call them. I've been in that scene, and I've been around those people, and there's just something little different about the Harley guys.
mhm,
Not
mhm.
necessarily in a bad way, but they fit my style. They fit my vibe a little bit more.
Well, the guys like you go to the rallies, you see. I always say at the same time, Harley guys are the worst of the worst. You know, the fat, old, gross people. Like, you know, you have to make fun of yourself. But you know, when I go to the sport bike guy nights and I see the guys with their shirts off and they're wearing their turtle vests, they're like you know with their baggy jeans, like guys, like it's all bad. And most motorcycle culture is bad, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's not whatever way you look at it, it's super cheesy either way, but it's still like, you know, it's what I know.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I see the fat old guy, it's my dad and his friends. What do you want me to tell you? You know what I mean?
yeah. No, I'm
So I
I'm
get it.
with you, man. I'm with you.
Mhm,
So, one of the things that I wanted to ask you actually, so
mhm,
we kind of talked about, your Harley, your background, So
yeah.
you kind of touched on it a little bit. Was it the sound? What was it about the Harley? Was it just it's
It was
growing up
always the
around
sound.
the
It was
sound?
the sound. In my mind, it was the sound and the, you know, the old school pictures of the guys. What's that old school artist's name? I can't for the life. David Mann. David
Oh
Mann.
yeah,
Is that
yeah,
it?
yeah. Yep.
The old school David Mann. I remember seeing that at my dad's clubhouse and all the David Mann posters and the apes and the sound of the heart. That's all it ever was. It was the sound.
It was, yeah,
It's the same way. Like it's the car thing. The same way. You know, somebody's gonna hear that. I was just in Daytona with my buddy, and we were talking about how you're constantly you're giving it a crack when you're on the bike, and like you do it subconsciously. Because when I'm off my bike, I find Harley so annoying, and they're all running around, and everybody's ran. I find it so annoying, but I do it. We all do it. You stop at the light, you give it a little go, and you know
yeah.
what I mean. But it's the sound. That's it. And the more obnoxious, the better. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
that's partly true. You're absolutely right. I
Hmm.
was at a We're gonna have a little bike night here tomorrow, but I remember a
Hmm.
conversation that we had. I like my first live podcast off site was at a bike night here local,
Hmm.
and I remember one of the conversations that we had in that was as people were leaving, as the bikes were kind of leaving the night. It was kind of the end of the night, and it was wrapping up. And as
Hmm.
people were leaving, you can or starting their bikes, it,
Hmm.
your tone just kind of dials
Hmm.
into it over time.
Hmm.
You're like, ooh, that thing sounds like a little Loby. It's got a little cam in it or
Mhm,
something,
mhm,
or that's got some fishtails in it, or oh, that thing sounds like
mhm,
dog shit. Sounds like it's got an
mhm.
exhaust or something.
Yeah.
And there's that. So I know exactly what you're saying when it's the sound, because my ears perk up like a dog when there's a
Mhm,
Harley or there's a motorcycle. More
mhm.
importantly, a Harley going down the street,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
way far away. So
Yeah, you hear it.
yeah, you want to be heard. There's nothing like the sound and the
Mhm,
rumble of that Harley-Davidson.
mhm,
So
mhm.
it's good.
For
It's
for me,
Go ahead,
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna just say, for me, it was never about, like, the image. I don't consider I'm not a biker by any means. It's never been about an image. It's more about just, the performance bagger thing really appealed to me. It was the culture of it. You know, the people were super cool. The camaraderie, like, everybody was so cool, when it started out, and everybody was friends. Everybody ca we're all just a bunch of motorcycle fucking nerds from everywhere that came
Mhm.
together on a common ground. And that was the cool thing about performance baggers early on, still today, but early on, it was very apparent. You know what I mean? You really saw it. And like all walks of life, a guy didn't have two dimes scratched together. A guy had so much money, nobody knew where he came from. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Everybody was together. Everybody was friends. Everybody was hanging out. We all had a common interest. Um, so yeah, so I don't consider myself a biker by any means necessary. You know what I mean? I'm a motorcycle fan. I'm a fan of Harleys. I'm a fan of these motorcycles. If I wasn't on this type of bike, I'd still be on Harley. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? If I had to buy a bike today, let's be honest, it would probably be a Softail. You know, it would be an ST or something like that. I'm a small guy. Those new Softails are pretty cool.
Yeah.
I I would probably jump on something like that. But that
Okay.
being said, the new pictures of the new touring bike are dropping. I posted a leaked picture today, which I think is sick, and everybody's hating on it. But
Everyone hates on something when it's new. I remember like the Chevy trucks when they first came out from the old body style, and then they came out with the newer front end. I was like, that thing's
hmm
disgusting. I'll never like it. It's hideous, and it grows on you. You know, you
hmm
see it enough, it'll eventually grow on you. You
so
know.
why do bikers, Harley guys, hate on the new models so much? Like this new Road Glide is dropping. Everybody want an inverted front end. It's got it. They want to break Brembos. It's got it. Why is everybody hating on it? They're saying the fairing looks like an Indian. No, to me, the fairing looks the same. It's just an evolution of the fairing it has. It has integrated corner lights. Okay, like, but just the hate is so abundant for these. It's like, I don't know why Harley guys feel they have to hate things before they accept. Like, when the new Softails came out, the amount of hate in those new Softails was insane. Now everybody loves them.
I can probably give a little bit of insight because I I'll tell you why I have like
Mm,
not the hate, but like the just the feelings
mhm,
towards it when it first comes out. Um, I like tradition. I like, I like kind of not nostalgia necessarily, but when Harley comes out with something, and for example, I got a friend that is a early model FXR junkie, and he doesn't own anything newer than a 2003 Dyna. Everything is below that, and there's the part of me that's like, oh man, I want Harley just to kind of keep that same sort of, but things have to evolve. But that I
mhm,
just to give insight to it, I think
mhm,
hardcore, maybe not even necessarily hardcore enthusiasts, but Harley fans, Harley like
mhm,
real rooted based fans. Speaking for myself, that you see that change and you're like, oh man, it's too new, it's too modern, it's not the
mhm,
it's too plastic looking, it's too, I don't know what it is. I want that, like, I still want that Harley to be like not dirty, but I just want it
mhm,
to represent Harley. Like when you look at it, you go, that's a fucking Harley.
mhm,
And I think sometimes with the new stuff that comes out, the soft tail stuff and the M8, everyone loves the fucking M8 now
mhm,
because it puts out so much damn power. But
mhm,
but like the facelift, when you get the new stuff, like your Lowrider ST, for example, you're
mhm,
talking about, like the Diablo that they came out with. I love it because I'm like, fuck, that's clean looking. But then I'm like, oh man, it's kind of got that FXR. Like, leave the
mhm,
FXR to the FXR shit. And
mhm,
I feel like maybe the people kind of tend to hate on it a little bit because it's
mhm,
like it's because of that. My opinion,
mhm,
I don't
mhm.
know if I'm going on the right track, but those are my feelings when I see something like that. I'm like, leave it.
I think people don't like change. It just comes
Yeah.
out. You're like, you put so much money into this bike that you own, and now Harley's gonna change it. Um, I think people don't like change, and it's all about level of comfort. You're comfortable. You're comfortable with the bike it is, but every time they change a platform, well, it's all new parts that are available now.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to jump on it for the industry. It's good for the industry. How many, of they've had the same model now since besides, yes, it went 20 cam to M8, but I mean, it's been the same Road Glide, Street Glide since 14, 15. You're pushing almost 10 years of the same body.
Yeah.
So they got to change it. And the new fairing, it's still an M8. It's still probably the exact same frame. Big deal. They put a new front end and new fairing, and maybe the bags are restyled. I don't know, something like that. We haven't seen the back, but it's still gonna be the same frame. It's not the monoshock touring bike everybody's waiting for. That I'm waiting for. I mean, that's gonna, like, I
Hmm.
don't know. Everybody's heads are gonna pop off when the monoshock bike comes out, but it will come out. I'm waiting for it to come out.
Yeah,
Uh, uh,
you nailed it though. I think that's what it
mhm,
is, man. The purist. I guess
mhm,
I'm a little bit of a
mhm,
purist in that sense. Like,
mhm.
let the bagger be the bagger. Like,
Yeah.
okay, let the Dyna be the Dyna. The Dyna's known to
Mhm,
have dual shocks, and that's what you
mhm,
know to be a Dyna. And then when you throw a wrench in the system and you put in a soft tail and you call it a Dyna or you call it a whatever, a street bob, and you
mhm.
just kind of rename it, but with some, or you keep the same name essentially, but you just change it completely. The
They would have
purist.
called it a Dyna instead of a fucking Softail. You would have had half the drama. You would no, actually, you still would have had drama because everybody would have, like, you can't win,
Yeah.
especially with Harley guys, you can't win no matter, but it's gonna be, I'm sure it's like that with every motorcycle, with every industry, with everything. People don't wanna change, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, I get it, but then, Harley has to evolve because at the
Absolutely.
same time that, like, literally they're putting out a platform of what we're asking for, and no matter what, people are gonna hate on it, and I can promise you everybody's gonna hate on it. Everybody's all the big shops, everybody's gonna build one, and then, in a couple of years from now, everybody's gonna accept it, and they're gonna be everywhere. So
Yep.
why let's skip to the part where I'm sure if I look at the post I put up today, there's 200 negative comments. I'm saying, "Guys, we know you're all gonna hate it. Let's skip" then I wrote in the thing, "I love it," because I do, because it's new and it's fresh. Cool, we've been looking at the exact same front end for 9 years now. Guys, let's look at a new front end, and even if you think it's ugly, cool, how are we gonna make it cool? But
Yeah.
but that's the way I look at everything. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Let's don't fight the change. Just let's what are we gonna do about it?
Embrace it.
That's
No, I'm with you.
yeah,
I'm
of
with
course.
you. Yeah,
Mhm,
I'm a little bit of both, man. I'm the
mhm,
purist, and I'm okay. The shit's got to advance. We've all
mhm,
yelled and screamed. This suspension sucks. This sucks. This
mhm,
sucks. Because we all have to throw a shit ton of money at our
mhm,
bike in order for it to look the way we
mhm,
want it and
mhm,
ride however it is that we're gonna ride it. But
mhm,
the purist of me says, "Oh, damn you!" But then the other
mhm.
side of me says, "Damn, they're onto something.
Yeah.
They're moving forward. Everything that we've asked
Uh,
for, hinted at."
the suspension is still gonna suck. We're just that inverted Harley front end is still shit.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's gonna be simple. You're gonna do a cartridge and you're done. You're not going. It already has an upper front end. It already has Brembos. They're Brembos, so they're all good. You're gonna do pads and rotors. All of a sudden, they're great brakes. Like it's much closer to where the finish point than where it is now, and it's an easier place to go. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. And meanwhile, in the pictures I've seen, the Street Glide looks way nicer than the Road Glide, and part of me is thinking, "Oh, if they're redesigning it, all the shit, would I consider going back to a Street Glide? Because I already have a Road Glide." And it's something I probably wouldn't, but I mean, it's something to consider. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I want that Street Glide to you remember 13, 14, the 10, Street Glide was it. Nobody rode road glides. It,
Yep.
it was all Street Glide. It was all Batwing, all forever. It was always Batwing until the late teens. Then everything switched. But
Yeah.
before that, they sold 10 to 1.
Oh yeah. I remember. That's where
Hmm.
the if you guys don't know, we'll take you back. That's where the
Hmm.
term whose black street glide is this? Because
Yeah.
that's what was out there.
Hmm. And I'm pretty sure they still outsell, like, regular folk, I think, buy Street Glides more than Road Glides. I
Yeah,
think.
I imagine
I
so.
could be wrong. Or
Yeah,
maybe
no,
it's close to even now, but I mean, it wasn't forever. So
agree.
I'd be curious like that. Like I said, I probably won't do it. I'll probably jump on a new Road Glide, but when that new platform comes out, I'll jump on. I won't jump on a CVO if that's the first one they're releasing. I won't spend that money for a bike that I will totally take apart. But,
Yeah.
I'll jump on one and I'll build one with
Well,
welcoming arms.
I will look forward to that. I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see. I don't think if you think I've seen the street glide, thing, and well, I'll show it here in a little bit. But
Yeah.
now that we kind of have an idea of
Hmm.
your kind of background with your bikes,
Hmm.
it's, Sportster and a
Hmm.
48 and a little bit of a chopper bobber type of stuff,
Hmm.
and then eventually big wheel, and now I think it's fair to say your bike is pretty well known amongst the scene or the
Hmm.
culture or the industry. I don't know, whatever we want to label it, and rightfully so. It's got some good work done to it. It's got a look to it that a lot of people like to see. Especially with how hot the stuff is right now. Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I got
Baby's crying.
you.
Baby's crying. So my wife is coming down to get a bottle probably.
Oh.
What's going on? Cool.
So I wanted to kind of just ask and like, so now I think
Mhm,
we call it a performance side. You kind of
mhm,
switched over and you kind of made a transition. We were talking
mhm.
around 2017, 18. What year is your bike,
18.
by the way?
It's an 18, so it
It's
was an
an
18.
Okay,
I
so
got it very early on in 18,
okay,
maybe February. So right away I started doing it, like bars and stuff, early 18. Yeah.
okay. So
And I
2000.
could tell you very strongly, my influence, Danny G, Spatafora choppers. Those two places, Race Glide. Those are my inspiration. And I would say, if anything, Spatafora choppers and Race Glide. Those are the two biggest influences I've had getting into this scene. Sorry, I cut you off, but I just
No, no, no.
I want to give credit where credit is due to those guys.
Well, you didn't cut me off at all, because that's exactly what I wanted to kind of like touch on. That's exactly where I was going with this, is where did it kind of transition? Where did it start? And it seems like there's the answer. You know, you saw some bikes online, you saw Spatafore choppers, you saw Race Glide, and it, you know, how did that, you see those and you think what?
So my big wheel, I built it and I rebuilt it. I rebuilt it every year, but it went for sale in 2015, 2016. Like right away, I'm like, okay, I want to get rid of it. So I wanted to get a Road Glide. I wanted to build just a regular bike. I didn't want the big one, but you know, I was with it. I was in it for another year or two because it's what I had. You know what I mean? And I wasn't going to go buy a new bike. So you kind of live with it. And at that point, you're too invested. You just live with what you have. But all the while I was watching, you know, and the San Diego Customs and the Danny G. This is very early on. There weren't many guys. And then Race Glide built his bike in 2015 with Spatafora, and 2017 is when Spatafora built that white bike that they have. I don't know if you know it, White Mare or whatever it's called. It was a brand new 2017 white Road Glide Special, and they built it. It's got a Pro Charger on it, full inverter front end. It's a very known bike. It's got a gold frame. Anyways, I remember watching that bike from the very beginning of when they bought that bike and tore it down. So that must have been 17, and I was just obsessed with that bike.
Okay.
You know, and then that's what it did for me. Just watching those guys and Will, and you know, I'm lucky to say that Ray from Spatafora and Will, these are friends of mine now. I texted Will yesterday, Will Race Glide, like, and they're not as, you know, relevant in the scene anymore, and people are going to say, who's Race Glide? It's a shame if they do, because Will is one of the greatest guys out there. I say that to everybody. He's one of my favorite people in the scene, but he's building a business now. But like, I'm to be able to say that these guys are friends, that, you know, the guys at San Diego Customs, these guys are friends. Like, I, you know, all these guys that I've like worshipped back then, that were just like the coolest, the innovators, and building the cool, baddest shit, are people that I'm friendly with now and I speak to. I'm very humbled by all that. But just that's where it all came from, just a pure love of the motorcycle. I was obsessed with the motorcycles while I was doing it. You know, everybody says, you know, because like I get a lot of free stuff and blah, 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 and I built my bike. I built the six-figure bike before I ever got a free part. You know what I mean? My bike was built when I had no followers. I had my bike. My bike was full carbon fiber, inverted front end, when that page had 1,000 followers. You know what I mean? So I've always been into this thing. I'm not okay. I haven't always, but through the course of this page, I've been involved since day one, and maybe that's why people like the page. You know, because I'm not just people know who I am. You know what I mean? And I think that people know that the guy behind the page is also in the culture and appreciates culture. And I love the bikes. That's it. It all comes down to, I just love the bikes, you know, and the riding.
Definitely can respect that, man. That's I think that's what needs to be first and foremost. You got to have a passion for it. You got to have a love for it. You know, if you're doing it for other reasons, then it doesn't do as much, or there's not as much value to it, you know. So so you kind of see these bikes and you see them building them, and you know, I got to ask, so is it more of you fall in love with the style? Because is that, I mean, let's be honest. I'm going to put it in terms of when you see a woman, or you know, when I met my wife, I didn't know. I mean, I had an idea, but when you meet your wife, or you talk to somebody, you don't know anything about them, you know, personality wise or anything like that. You're attracted to them is the first thing that you look at. You're like, oh, I'm attracted to that person. And so was it? Obviously, it's that first, but where did like. Where does the performance stuff kind of like roll into it? Like the advantage of building it for this reason, or building it like
so
this?
It's definitely this. These performance baggers, say whatever we want. It's a trend. We know it's a trend. You know what I mean? Like everything else, things come and go. It's a trend. Maybe it'll hold on for long. It's not a trend like a fucking stupid big wheel, but it's still a trend. You know what I mean? Eventually, we're gonna move on to something else. You know, maybe it'll have good legs on it, there'll be a lot of longevity on it, but it will trend out to something else probably, you know? Um, and yeah, when I saw them, I went from big wheels and low to the ground and wanting my motorcycle to be low on the ground to raised up and small wheels and gold front end and gold parts. It's funny because if you look at pictures of my big wheel, it was all black with copper plated wheels. It was kind of black and gold. I've always leaned towards black and gold. So then when I jumped on my bike in 2018, when I picked up, I knew right away I was going inverted. You know, I knew I was going to go inverted. I knew I was going to go, you know, piggybacks on it. Um, and I just wanted carbon fiber, inverted, everything. That's it. Like, I guess it's because like I said, I'm a car guy. I come from the car scene. So you go
BMW
from,
style, right? Is you more Euro
I'm a
style?
Euro guy. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm a Euro guy. Um, but I've had tuners. I've had everything along the way. Yes, I'm a Euro guy now.
But that, I mean, and I say that in the
Mhm.
context as far as like, if you're a Euro guy, the carbon kind of makes a lot more sense because that's very already
There's
popular.
always a lot of carbon on my parts. Yeah,
I mean, that's in the
my
Euro
cars always
scene.
have carbon.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's exactly
which
that.
is why my entire bike front to back is carbon. My entire bike is carbon fiber front to back, and I never painted it. The reason I didn't paint it is because as a car guy, carbon fiber is the most beautiful thing ever, and I don't want to cover my carbon. I love my carbon fiber. You know, I spend a lot of money to put carbon fiber on my cars. You know, why would I paint it? But that's my 2 cents. So I've always been is for 30 years I've had carbon fiber on my cars, and I want to keep it that way. If I look at pictures of full carbon fiber built cars, you know, on the internet, I drool over them. You know, so that's what I love. Um, anyway, so yeah, it was the style. It was the style of those bikes, and I actually said this on Jason's podcast. I could tell you the first time I ever saw a performance bagger. Actually, before all this, I would say Laconia 2015. Laconia Bike Week 2015. I was at a stoplight. I was on my big wheel, and in front of me were two guys on road glides with T-bars, high bags. Everything's okay. Kids come in the
Yeah,
garage.
my wife's taking the kids out for a walk, and
Yeah,
no, I'm good.
I hear you. So I was sitting on my big wheel, aired out, and these two guys, you know, T-bars, bags all the way up in the air, jacked up side by side in front of me on road glides, and I'm like, I'm there low and whatever with, you know, like an idiot, and these two guys are sitting there with T-bars and their bikes are jacked up. They're wearing like Converse and high socks, like real Dynabro guys back then. And the light went green, and the two of them blasted off. And I'm there on my stupid big wheel, aired out, bouncing around, and these two guys just blasted off. And I'm like, that's so much fucking cooler than me right now. That's left such an impression on me. I'm like, these guys are fucking riding their baggers. They're going and they're ripping their baggers, and I'm here trying to look cool. And so that was 2015, and so that's when I probably started noticing it, and then I started following the other guys. So it was always just the big wheel guys are. It's like I don't know how to compare it. It's like taking if you look at it in a car way, the big wheel is a fucking show car that you don't drive on the road. The performance bagger is the really well built car that you're driving on the road, and it's super cool, but you're beating it up. I guess that's the difference between
Yeah,
the two, you know, and that's what made me fall in love with it. Let's build something really fucking cool that I could put on the road.
I think very well
Mhm,
put. You know,
mhm,
you have show bikes, you have giant builds, you have SEMA builds, you have those
mhm,
type of things that are
mhm,
built just for those specific type of things, whether to showcase your shop or just to showcase workmanship, whatever it may
mhm,
be. And you're right, that's what kind of big wheel baggers were, so to speak. And
mhm,
still are, because they're still out there. They're still
mhm.
mobbing
Oh
around.
yeah.
They're still very big in certain parts of the country.
I don't know why, but yeah, they're definitely still out there.
Yeah. They're in some parts of the country, they're still giant. They're still every scene kind of evolves at its own pace, or
Yeah,
region kind of
I
evolves in
guess
its
so.
own
I
pace.
guess so. I have no comment on it. No comment.
And it's funny because we came from them, right? We were sitting on them at one point.
But we knew when to get out. 2015, I was saying to everybody around me, "Sell your big wheel. Get out of it. Get out of it. It's coming. It's coming. It's coming." And then people would get mad at me when I would say it, but and I ran from it. I dumped my bike.
Yeah, it's the reality of it, though. You
Mhm,
touched on it a little bit earlier that I've been around Harleys, I've been around the street bikes enough, I've been around the car scene and the classic trucks and all that stuff, and not so much with classic vehicles, but
mhm,
there's trends to stuff,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
that is going to be a constant in
Mhm.
everything that you do. Imports, euros, again, anything that you do, there's always going to be a trend of
Absolutely.
things, and it's going to be a wave of stuff.
Mhm.
I guess the trend that I kind of got into earlier was the performance stuff, the kind of, and
Mhm.
that was just simply for me because of the way I was riding and the places I was going and the aggressive style that I was riding. I'm like, I can't ride this fucking thing the way that I like to ride. And it
Mhm.
evolved into me changing my bike that way before it got really, hit the
Mhm.
mainstream and all that shit, but
Mhm.
trends are going to come, trends are going to go. They're all, I mean, from clothes to whatever, man. We don't dress the same as we did in the early 2000s. That was a trend,
Mhm.
that was a style, that
Yeah.
was a fashion, so the
Mhm.
same thing. It's just constant evolvement, and it's good. There's things that are good from trends that you take from it, and
Mhm.
that kind of
Mhm.
stick within the culture, and that's great. And then there's other things where like, definitely could have done without that shit.
Mhm. Mhm.
So
But that was it. Like it was cool, and we saw us the early adopters. We saw it coming, and we saw like the trend. But finally, we had that. Like, if you're a motorcycle guy and you like riding motorcycle, finally there's a trend that makes it ride better. Like, I was never an aggressive. I rode a lot, but I wasn't an aggressive rider. I was mellow. You know what I mean? I don't need to be in front. I'm not trying to be a hero, especially on a big wheel, even on my Dyna. I just wanted to ride, and I never rode too quick or anything. And my friends would go super fast. I'd let them go, and I'd meet them at the end.
mm-hmm,
The better my bike got, the faster I rode.
mm-hmm,
So to now, I'm at the point where a lot of people think I ride too fast, but if I ride with younger guys, I don't ride fast enough. So like, I found my place in the middle, but I ride to like the ability, definitely not to the ability of my bike. I definitely don't. I'm not going to say that, but I mean, I definitely ride more aggressive now that I have a better bike. You know what I mean? And then like you want to challenge yourself more, but I'm also 15 with a family, 50 with a young family. So I'm not
yeah,
trying to be hero at the end of the day. But I had that in Daytona. With Daytona, we did a hood ride from Daytona to Space Coast to the show, and there were like 80 bikes, and everybody took off on the highway doing 110. And I'm like, you know what, guys, you guys go. I don't
yeah,
have anything to prove, and they're on stock bikes and Dynas and that. And my bike will do 140, 150 like a bullet, solid. I just have no interest in doing it with guys I don't know next to me. So
yeah,
you guys go. I'll
yeah,
do my 100. I found a couple guys that I knew, and we went down about 100. Like, I just, these guys, like, I have no interest in riding like that. But to say, like, the bikes, the better my bike got, the quicker I rode, and the better I rode. You know what I mean? And doing, an hour on the highway, doing 120 miles an hour. Yeah, it's cool for 2 minutes, but like, I don't need to do that. I don't need to be in a life and death situation. Give me on a mountain road. That's what I want to ride. Let's
I
be
feel
honest.
you.
You know
I
what I
feel
mean?
you. Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely, man. You're right.
Hmm.
The style has changed, the riding has
Hmm.
changed. I want
Hmm.
to ask that. So you get the bike, you
Hmm.
get, you see the style of bike,
Hmm.
you kind of fall in love with it, you start building yours that
Hmm.
way. And
Hmm.
then at what point you decide I'm going to start a page? What was the kind of the
So
motivation?
I think because my wife at the time, I always saw like Instagram. Instagram was a big thing in 2018. It was still a big thing. We were all on it. And there
Mhm.
was like repost pages and stuff like that. And I remember years before that, I always thought like, I think my ex-wife was a social media. That's what she did for a living. And my current wife is in e-commerce and stuff like that. So I've always been around it. And when I got the bike early 18. I started the page, I think July or August of 18. And I was home on a Saturday night. My wife or girlfriend at the time was going out, and I didn't have anything to do. And Performance Bagger, Andy's page, was around.
Mhm.
He was the original page, but he had like 3,000 followers. He didn't have a lot of followers. And him and I used to speak and this and that. And I'm like, you know what? There's literally big wheel pages. I followed 20 of them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm like, there's one page. There was Performance Harley and there was Performance Baggers. Those were the only two popular pages at the time posting Performance Harley stuff.
Yeah.
And Performance Harley at the time had like 5,000 followers. He had a huge following back then, it seemed like. And I'm like, and so I was just home. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to start a page. I love these bikes. Maybe I could start a page. Maybe it'll turn into something. Maybe I can meet some cool people. Maybe I get some cool parts out of it. Let's be honest. Of course, I was thinking that. I'm like, who knows? But I mean, I never really thought it'd be anything more. And I posted a bunch of bikes and I followed a ton of people and I worked like crazy on that page. The first year, 2 years, 40, 50 hours a week I was doing on the page. Like it
Mhm.
was constantly working, constantly posting, just like bullshit, constantly liking and following people just to be noticed and messaging people and shit like that. And I remember when I started the page, I got a bit of hate from Performance Bagger and from some of his friends, and now all those guys are my friends. It's a shame that Performance Bagger Andy, he kind of fell off and the page just fell off, even though he still has like 70, 80,000 followers, but
Yeah.
he stopped doing it,
Yeah,
you
I
know?
think, business. I think business got, like, really.
He's a truck driver now, but I mean, he's still I should have sold it, should have done something with Page. There was opportunity there. Every so often he'll pop up, he'll do something, but
Yeah.
I still follow him personally. I still see his personal life, so I know what he's up to. But I don't know. I guess he was over it. He had the bike for a while, and then he sold the bike, and he didn't have a bike for a bit. So I just think he didn't care as much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's what happened. Is the scene grew so much when he stopped caring.
Yeah. That
Anyways,
that
so that's my story. Like I literally bored on a Saturday night, and I'm like, this could be cool. Meet some cool people. I was able to post pictures of like heroes of mine, quote unquote. I could post a picture of Race Glide and tag him and
right.
maybe send him a message and he'll reply to me. Whereas before I was nobody. He's not going to reply to me. The same thing.
So that, I mean, that kind of answers the question. Like, that
Mm.
was your it sounds like your motivation was a little bit to maybe meet people, or was it, I mean, because to meet people, to see some cool bikes and stuff like that. But how much of it, I guess, were you really interested in getting it exposed, or was it more of just kind of finding people that were kind of along the same guidelines of the bikes that you're riding now?
I would say there's a three part: being able to speak to the people that I admire, meeting people, and the idea of maybe the page could turn into something someday that I could actually get some cool shit out of. I'll be
Okay.
totally perfectly honest with you. Still a businessman. I'm in my real life, I'm a businessman. So at the end of it, there's always a backline. And could this actually be something? Why would I do it? Why would I invest so much time for free? Without thinking one day maybe it could turn into something. Also, 2018, there's no print anymore. Everybody knows, internet is like, I don't want to say it's the new magazine because it's an insult to magazine because it's definitely not. I just post pictures. Who gives a fuck? But like, I'm just saying, like, that's where everybody gets entertainment these days. That's where everybody sees new stuff these days. That's where it is. So like maybe it could turn into some kind of small business. And like even this many years later and hundreds of thousands of followers, whatever business I get from this page is very minor compared to the amount of work that's gone in that it is. But it's better than nothing. It's better than giving it away for free anymore. But that
Yeah.
was definitely, so I would say one part maybe a business and one part meeting cool people and one part speaking to the people that I admired. I would
Fair
say
enough.
pretty evenly. But at the time, it's not like I ever thought it would turn into what it is now. Of course not. I never would have thought that.
Yeah, especially in the early adoption of it, the early
Mhm,
infancy of it, and
mhm,
I'll give you, I'm always the type of person to give
mhm,
credit where credit's due,
mhm,
and for you to kind of say, yeah, I had an idea, like, hey, if this could turn
mhm,
into a business, this could turn into that, I'm
mhm,
now with the Throttled Roots page and me running a podcast and running a YouTube and social media stuff, I've turned into, I didn't think it, to be honest with you, I didn't start my venture thinking it was going to turn that
mhm,
way. I just wanted to sit in my garage and talk to my friends, and whoever wanted to listen would fucking kind of chime in, and that would just kind of be
mhm,
the way that it was. But it grew legs, and
mhm,
it got a thing. And then you're right, at one point it turned into, well, I'm going to put all this time and effort into it. Sometimes
mhm,
take away from my wife because I need to edit a podcast, or I need to do, or I
mhm,
just need to stay up late because I'm trying to put out a consistent product. And so, yeah, at some point you got to kind of flip that switch a little bit to go,
mhm,
well, although fun and although entertaining and it's something that I like, how can I make this profitable for me, and
mhm,
and so I respect the fact that you can be honest about it, like, hey,
mhm,
like, and you nailed it. You're a businessman. I'm the same
mhm,
way. I'm business minded.
mhm,
I'm business oriented. And
mhm,
so if I can take a passion of mine and turn it
mhm,
into a business of some sort, then yeah, I would like to go ahead and try and run down that avenue and see what kind of doors that it opens up for
mhm.
me. And to be honest with
100%.
you, yeah, and just like I'm sure it has with you, it's opened up doors for me.
Mhm,
I've
mhm.
met a lot of people that I never probably would have met.
Yep.
And that's from the work, that's from the commitment to it, that's just from time and effort and whatnot.
Mhm,
But I respect the fact that you're like, yeah, turn it into a business, because some people are going to go, it's just for attention, or it's just that. No, there's a
mhm,
little bit other bite. There's more bite to it than just reposting someone's bike and shit.
mhm.
So, um,
But
so
that's it. Yeah, like I'm not gonna sit here and say obviously when I start the page or obviously when I do this page, I do it for free because I like the bikes. The amount I think at a certain point, especially early on, I realized how much work it really was. And there was many times where I'm like, is it worth it? For years,
I say the same
you
all
know,
the
for years I was like, is it worth it? For years, and like, and it definitely wasn't worth. It's still not worth it today. Let's be honest. But these days, there's a lot more content for me. I get a little bit out of it. People are super cool, and it's become so much part of my routine. Looking for bikes, posting for bikes, that it doesn't take the amount of bandwidth as it used to, or at least it takes it. But I don't. It's like second nature to me now.
yeah.
As soon as I have downtime, I'm on my phone looking for content. And like I'm getting everything ready. It's not like at the very beginning, when in 2018, finding content was fucking hard. To be honest, it was so hard. Now I'm trying to find good content because there's content out there, but it's not great. You know what I mean? And like
Hmm.
so, but and I've always said that the truth is at the end of the day, the best part of this page has always been the people I met, and I stand behind that 100%. But if I make a little bit of money, cool. But the people I met is like so much ahead of all the rest. If the page stops tomorrow, it's always going to be. It was a good one. The people I met were the best. I've met people who I consider some of the closest friends I have, and I would have never met them if it wasn't for these motorcycles and for the page. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
people have said that to me, that my page is like, it's like Tinder for performance baggers. Like, people are meeting each other through the page, which is really cool. And like, I appreciate that. It brings people together because I post a cool bike, and then everybody's messaging to me, and then each other, and then they're sharing thoughts. I hope it still happens like it used to, but it used to at the beginning very much so be like that.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right, man. I like that it
Hmm.
does do that. I'm a fan for the page for that reason, that it's
Hmm.
I've said it about your page, and
Hmm.
I've been vocal about it, that
Hmm.
it's a very good starting point. It's if you're just getting into the scene, or you're just some people are barely getting introduced to this stuff in different parts of the country, and your page is a very good place to go and get introduced to it and go and see many different styles of bikes and people from
Hmm.
all different parts of the country, and like, hey, this guy lives pretty close to me, or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So it's always a good thing to have for community, or life
Hmm.
culture, whatever it may be. Everyone has to have, I don't want to label it like the starting point, but there's got to be
Hmm.
some place that you go to, we all to
Hmm.
go, and you go to the library to find your shit, you go to proper baggers to
Hmm.
start looking at performance baggers. That's just kind of the gateway, so to speak, the starting point.
Go get inspired. Go look for something cool. It's funny when I judged some of the shows at in Daytona. I judged a hardcore show, and I judged the Performance Hangover show, the Big Trouble show. And I realized, judging the shows, that maybe I'm not a good judge because I'm gonna look for the oddball. And the bikes that I liked, my favorite bikes at the show weren't the bikes that I picked for best bagger,
Hmm.
because I've seen it. Like, you've been doing this for so long too. You've seen everything. I've seen everything. You know what I mean? How many carbon fiber bikes can I see? How many inverted front ends? How many, paint jobs can I see? It's all the same. It all starts looking the same. So
Hmm.
as soon as I see anything different, I'm in love. You know what I mean? It's just different, out of the box. My two favorite bikes at the shows were like the bikes that look bone stock,
Yeah.
because they were just so simple and so clean. So I'm always looking for an oddball. I know that you never like my top 10 list, and it's always just because I'm always like, it's such a broad spectrum. Let's be honest. It's very hard to pick that top 10 list, and it's always said, it's my list. I don't
Of
speak to
course.
anybody else. I pick it out myself, and I take so many things into consideration. Like, I take into consideration, does a shop own the bike? Does a person own the bike? You know, paint,
Okay.
no paint, maybe lack of paint. Maybe there's a reason why the bike doesn't have. I take so many things into consideration, like ability. Does the bike have resale value? I consider so many things when I'm considering the winners for all this kind of thing. And I'm gonna if there's an oddball, for me, it's always on the top of my list.
Okay.
Like, my list was pretty safe this year. The year before, I picked Steve at Speakings. I love Steve, and that bike was such an oddball, and that's why I picked it. Like, I like an oddball because I've seen everything. You know what I mean? So, like, this is like saying, if somebody wants to catch my attention, build something fucking out of the box, and I'm in love.
Yeah. I agree with that, man. And
Mhm.
just to, yeah, I may not always agree with I don't agree with sometimes with the top 10 fucking songs of 2020
Mhm.
shit, but
Mhm.
I think the most important thing is what you said, it's your fucking list.
Mhm.
It's your list to choose the fucking bikes
Mhm.
that you
Mhm.
think that are
Mhm.
your top 10 of the year,
Mhm.
of the century, whatever the fuck it may be. It's your list to be able to choose that. And that's why,
Mhm.
like you're talking about, when you go and judge or you're a judge at a show,
Mhm.
beauty is in the eye of the beholder, right? And
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
what it boils down to. So
Mhm.
and that's what we were touching on earlier. You know, my upbringing, my background, my lifestyle, and is slightly different from yours. So my point
Mhm.
of view on a bike and a style and a certain, you know, lines or whatever it may be, it's going to be totally different than what
Mhm.
yours
Mhm.
is, the next person's is, and the next person's is. And that's what's really
Mhm.
great about the motorcycle stuff, is because
Mhm.
you build it to hopefully, because this is where we're going to
Mhm.
go next, fingers
Yeah.
crossed, you
Yeah.
build it to what you want the bike to be. You know,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
first and foremost should be your priority when you are building your bike, when you are, whether it's fucking because you're going to ride it a shit ton of miles or because you want to go and do wheelies on the damn thing, whatever it may be, the priority when you build a bike should always be first and foremost for me and my
Yeah.
ass and
Yeah.
my riding and my abilities and all that shit, you know.
Mhm.
If you build it, I think, for any other reason, you kind of got the formula wrong a little bit. You know, you're
So
going
I think I know where you're going with this. And I think this is us talking about. So I do see this trend. So when I say this is a trend, it's because I believe it is a trend because I see some of the bikes being built, and I've spoke about this before. I can usually spot the difference between a bagger built by somebody who rides and a performance bagger built by somebody who's building a show bike. You
hmm
know what I mean? And they're, to me, they're two different bikes. I guess I could respect both, but it doesn't sit the same with me. You know, and I'm sure you know exactly what I mean, you
no,
know?
I know
And
exactly what you mean.
mhm, and it's unfortunate to see that side of the motorcycle community coming into what we hold so close, and you know what I mean, that we feel like it's our baby, and like now here go
Mhm.
into the world, and then oh, these guys are bastardizing what we did. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And I think that's what you're alluding to.
I definitely kind of going with
Mhm,
that direction in this stuff, man.
mhm,
Is you know what it where do you feel kind of the I don't know what we dub it, the scene, the genre, the
mhm,
whatever we call this air quotes
mhm,
performance bagger, or whatever we categorize it
mhm,
as. I mean, where do you kind of see it right now? You know, I've seen
mhm,
it. We touched on it earlier. We've seen it from a very early infancy. You know,
mhm,
I know I have. I know you've seen
mhm,
it from 2015, 16 when you started putting
mhm,
eyes on it. You know, build
mhm,
one in 2018. So
mhm,
where is it from then to now? You know,
mhm,
2023. We're 5, 6 years into this thing.
mhm,
Um, I kind of get. I guess where is it? Because for me, there's a shit ton of stuff that has been really good about this stuff. I'll give you the
mhm,
probably the biggest example of it. And I've never been out there, but I fucking enjoy seeing it, is the Bagger Racing League and fucking King of the Baggers type shit. I
mhm,
love that this style of bike, this performance
mhm,
bagger stuff has done something like that. It's put
mhm,
that stuff on the map at Moto America and these fucking racetracks across the country where people are going, holy crap. Now, obviously, these bikes that are out there are highly, highly modified
mhm.
by,
Yeah.
shops that can, Harley-Davidson, Vance and Hines, they got all the infrastructure and all the technology and everything to be able to build one of these bikes. But I definitely enjoy seeing what
Mhm,
it has done for that,
mhm.
because it's put it on the map in that sense where
Yeah.
people are looking at it going, holy crap, look at this fucking 600-pound, 700-pound bike just railing around Laguna Seca or
Mhm,
wherever track they were going. Like, and yeah,
mhm,
shit, I saw one video recently. You're still getting the speed wobbles out there. So I don't feel that
mhm. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it still happens with these bikes. So for
Yeah.
that, I love the what
Mhm,
it's done. I love what it's contributed for that sense. There's so many fucking parts that were never considered, shop or no CNC stuff,
mhm,
inverted front ends. The list goes on and on and on
mhm,
of all the stuff that has been thrown into the performance stuff, or at least cultivated because of it. But
mhm,
then there comes the kind of the shift, the kind of fucking like,
mhm,
okay, it's hit mainstream. And
mhm,
although great, that's really good, it also puts a bad taste in your mouth a little bit, like, oh man,
mhm,
it's it's
mhm,
it's hit mainstream, and that means it's
mhm,
hit every douchebag or whatever we want to
Mhm.
fucking call them that's out there that's
Mhm.
like, I want to jump on that shit now, and
Mhm.
here I fucking go.
I think it went from, like, when the bagger racing thing, we were all so excited. I wish they gave a little bit of a nod towards us. Like, this started on the in the social media. This started as a trend, and we jumped on. Like, I wish there was a nod somewhere. There was never any nod, but that's cool. It is what it is. And it went from, like, us having bikes that people walk up to and say, "What is that? That's fucking cool. This looks like a sport bike, but it's a bag." To somebody walking up now and saying, "Oh yeah, they race these things on TV. Is that why you built this?" You know, and we went from, like, kind of being the cool guys to, like, being, oh, now it's like, oh, this is there. And now, like, somebody who knows nothing about it is going to see it on TV and say, wow, that's cool. Let's do something like that. It kind of flipped it around a little bit. Um, yeah. I mean, to me, it doesn't change anything in my life. You know what I mean? But it was my buddy Kyle from Forever Rad always said, he said it years ago on a podcast, and it resonated with me. It's like you discovered this cool band that nobody knows about, and then all of a sudden they made a hit, and now all of a sudden they're on top of the world, and everybody knows who they are. They're not cool anymore, but they're
Yeah,
still your baby. You still know, they were still your thing. You know what I
yeah,
mean? You still hold on to it, but, like, it's like, I remember when it was cool, and now it's mainstream. But
yeah,
I mean, we still love it. It's still cool. At the end of the day, it's all about the motorcycle, right? So, like, you the scene has changed incredibly. It's not the same place it was back then. It still is in pockets, you know what I mean? In the community, it still is. There's definitely politics in it now, and there's a lot of money in it now, so there's a lot of
mhm,
people in it now. Everybody I always say, "Thank God I don't work in the motorcycle industry." It's a bad industry. Everybody's stealing from everybody. There's a lot of egos. It's a bunch of bikers running business instead of businessmen running businesses.
mhm.
Um, and so it's a tough, tough, tough industry to be in. I see it. I have a ton of friends in it now, but everything changed. You know what I mean? I do feel strongly that the community, everything changed a lot dramatically,
Yeah,
but I still love it. You know what I mean? I still love it. I still love all the people. Um, I think I'm a very person in my life. I steer very clear of any drama around me. I have no time. I have no energy for it. I'm busy enough, and I hope the drama doesn't spill into the community and stuff. Even if it is, even I'm sure it is right now. I just stay away from it. You know what
yeah,
I mean? And I'm gonna love these bikes because I love the bike. I'm gonna keep riding them. I'm gonna keep promoting them. And I hope people who come into the scene are the same. And I hope more than anything that people are riding the bikes they're building. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like, there's definitely guys coming in with big money, deep pockets that just want that bike.
yeah.
Definitely, 100%. It's a shame.
And
Y
that's where I think the tide twists. That's where the tide turns right
Mm.
there. Is
Mhm.
exactly that.
Mhm.
Is you starting to, I saw it early. I saw it a while back. I saw the trend like a year ago and maybe a little bit more, where
Mhm.
it started turning into, well, I got deeper pockets than that than the next guy. And
Mhm.
yes, let's be real. Let's be 100% true about
Mhm.
it. Building one of these bikes is not cheap. So
No.
it does take money in order to
Mhm.
build a nice air quotes performance bagger, whether
Oh,
you're
yeah.
going to rip the
Big
shit out
money.
of it or you're just going to have it
100%.
look like that. So let's keep it real. It does take money. So,
Oh, yeah.
but it's turned into, and I hate that that's what it has, because that's the purist in me coming out.
Mhm.
That's the purist going, fuck man, I like the dude that just going out there and building it. I don't like him more than
Mhm.
the next person, but
Mhm.
I appreciate it more when you maybe you did it in the garage, or maybe you and your
Mhm.
buddies did it. You might have the fucking Olin's inverted fucking front end on your bike, but you and your homeboys did it there in your garage, tearing
Mhm.
it apart late at night, fucking struggling, cussing at shit, whatever it may be, because it didn't go to plan. I
Mhm.
like the grassroots of that. That's the purist in me coming out. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, the tide has just twisted and shifted, where it feels like, look at me. It feels like, look at
Mhm.
my bike now and look at the style. There is performance bagger, and I say that I'm not a huge fan of the term,
Mhm.
but there's performance bagger with guys that are going out and ripping the shit out of them, and going through a
Mhm.
canyon and really letting the damn things eat. What
Mhm.
I like to refer to some of these other ones now is just performance look, performance
Mhm.
style look. I don't know,
Mhm.
because that's what I'm starting to see more of. And that's when it starts to give a bad taste. Like you said, it starts to put like, okay, people are going to look at your bike and now they're just going to fucking clump you in with the whole big shit of, oh yeah, that's just another guy that threw a shit ton of money at it. Obviously they don't know you. Maybe you did it 4 years ago, whatever it may be. But because that has now come to fruition, basically, that's what you kind of get lumped into nowadays. And that's the shitty part. That's where that's why I'm like, oh fuck, I'm not a huge fan of this shit. I want to show you something, and I'm not talking shit. I'm not, but this is an example. Now this is from your page. You probably, I don't know if you took the video. I don't know.
Yeah, I took that video.
Okay.
I literally took the video.
Like this is when I saw this, for me personally, I said it earlier, and I'm gonna stick to my fucking guns with it, because I will always say this. If you built this motherfucker for you, then fucking A, man. If you said, I want to have fucking flash and light up paint, and I want to have all this shit on it, whatever this going on here, if you built it for you and that was the reason you did it, well, then tell me to fuck off, and absolutely I should fuck off, and I should be that. But when I see this, and then when I know when a lot of other people are going to see it, there's going to be all these guys are going to go, oh fuck, and they're going to bust the nut over this thing, because it's one, yes, I get it, it's something new. Nobody's I've seen this paint used on cars and shit like that in the scene, but it's new to the performance bagger or the show shit. And people are going to fucking bust a nut over this. They're going to look at it and go, holy crap. But this right here, to me, is the epitome a little bit of, and I don't know the guy. I'm not fucking talking. I don't know the guy personally, but this is kind of the epitome of, hey, look at me. It's, I don't feel, and I don't stare at this thing going, oh, that thing's going to fucking go and rail. And maybe he does. Maybe he fucking does go and rip the shit out of that thing. But what I see first and foremost is light up fucking paint with stock fucking brakes and stock fucking this. And I don't know what the fuck is in the suspension on the front. I can see big shiny gold things sticking out the back because you got to have that wow. But beyond that, fuck, man, it's got T-bars on the damn thing because everyone... So this is what I see. When I see this, I go, oh man, kind of fucking burst my bubble.
So let me actually, this is a perfect bite. It's good that you brought it up, because I spoke to the owner. So everybody was talking about this bike at Hardcore, and they're like, did you see the light up bike? Everybody was talking, did you see it? I walked around the whole show. I didn't even notice it. And I walked past it, and then I went by and somebody saw, then I went back and I looked at it, and I had to give my vote for best paint. We were a panel, so best build, best paint, they were one of them. And I saw it. Did I think it was some big wheel shit when I first saw it? Like, yeah, let's be honest, we all think that. I'm thinking the same thing you thought when I saw it. And then I went around and I spoke to the guy who did it. The guy, I'd say the kid, the guy's in his 20s who built it, loves that bike. He's a painter. He wanted to do something so out of the box to show what he can do as a talented painter. And he did it. He spent a ton of money and time and effort to do it. He knows he will never sell this to anybody because the amount of labor, he said it's like a $20,000 paint job. And I believe it if he was to sell it. So he did it. What you see there is the guy who owns the bike. That's him on the bike. So when I say that to you, you might recoil a little and take back what you said, because he did that. So he didn't pay a shop to do it. He wanted to show his talents as a painter and what he can do. Thing is, if I didn't know the bike and I didn't know the backstory, I wouldn't have the same opinion on the bike. I'd probably have the same opinion as you. We're saying it's big wheel shit. It's big wheel shit. It's just about the flash. The fact that I know the backstory makes me look at it differently. Is it my cup of tea? Not necessarily. Would I do it? No, not necessarily. But this particular bike, I can appreciate the work that went into. But I could say at the same time, people fucking love this shit. Not my cup of tea, but people love it. Absolutely love it.
I'm with you, and I agree that and if when it comes to something like this, you're and I did a little bit of my own reason prior to us even bringing this bike up or anything like that.
Yeah.
I wanted to find out, well, who's the owner of this thing?
Altered Ego, I believe is the name of it, right? Altered Ego Paint, something like that.
I couldn't tell you right now. I'd be lying if I said
Altered Ego Custom Paint. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to like if you're a painter, which it sounds like that's what he is, that's what this person is. I understand when you're a painter, you got to do something to get your business out there, right? I mean, shops do the same thing with their builds. When they build a motorcycle, they build a bike to go showcase our talents, our skills, our craftsmanship, all that shit. Painters got to do the same exact thing. I'm on board with that. I'm on board with that. I totally fucking get that. But when I see stuff like this, the purist in me knows that there's going to be 90% of the community, of the people that are going to see this thing and just it's the 10% is going to be you and I that go, oh, that's a painter. He needs to get his work out. He needs to be seen. He wants to just do something over the top in order for his name to get out. And and from that standpoint, nailed it, right? Because that's the fucking talk of the fucking internet and shit.
Yeah, this bike,
right? Exactly. So if that was your objective, fucking nailed it. If that was your goal, exactly. So from that side of it, I totally understand. I just hate to see this stuff because then it introduces the next fucking guy with deeper pockets that's got to go and one up this damn thing, or it's got to do something. And that's great for the painter because guess what? He's going to go and get the paint job for him to be able to do that. So fucking hey, when it comes to your hustle and it comes to your grind, I'll never knock any of that shit. It's just
because the guy who actually, not this guy, but the guy who actually does paint the bike is going to do it. He's going to be a guy with huge pockets, and it's a show bike. He wants to paint a show bike, and he's doing it purely for flash. But I mean, can you fault somebody if they're doing that? Like if it makes them, the purist in you, yes, is going to fault. If somebody has so much money and says, I want FU paint, and he does this, is it cool? No, I mean, it's trying a little bit hard, in my opinion. Like, and I guess that's the reason why I don't have paint on my bike, because I don't need the flash. Like if you have to try so hard it's not working, there's an expression I can never remember, but like if you're trying that, it's like you shouldn't try so hard. So if somebody's gonna spend all that money on the paint, I get it, you know what I mean? But I understand why most, like, I think the people who've been in the scene for longer maybe didn't appreciate the paint as much, and then the people who are newer to the scene maybe appreciate. Some people appreciate the craziness and the flash. It's a love it or hate it paint job, in my opinion. And probably 3/4 of the people are going to hate it, and then 1/4 is going to love it, and then 0.00001 is actually going to do it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You're right.
But the guy who owns the bike, it was an FU. It was like, look at this fucking shit. And he was a good kid. He was a really nice guy. He was super proud of his work. He did it himself. The bike has gotten a ton of recognition of this paint. And it's literally the paint. It's the paint that lights up. He runs electrodes through it. It's got a whole thing that works. It's literally the paint lights up on this bike. It's pretty impressive the way it works. It doesn't have anything underneath it. It's the actual physical paint that lights. But I definitely see totally where you're going, see where you're coming from when you're saying this to you. It looks like just big wheel flash shit, and like it has no place in our scene. But there's a place for everybody, right? There's an ass for every seat.
I agree with that. There is an ass for every seat, and this is the purist in me. This is the longtime Harley guy coming out and me going, oh God, like you kind of said it a little bit earlier, less is more. And I got believe me, I got flashy paint, I got fucking frames, and I got a panel paint job on my shit. I got that stuff too, but it's just when you start taking it to other levels. I'm gonna give you another example actually of the opposite end of it. Okay?
Show me. I like this. Show me.
I'm gonna give you another example. Let me find it's actually on your page because I was looking at it earlier and I wanted to show that. And then I wanted to show like, okay, here's what you can also do with a fucking just a nothing fucking paint job added to it, but fucking screams business and looks fucking hard. Check this out. Hard as fuck. When it comes to like the performance type and the look, this is just a black paint job with fucking the right parts. I mean, it's got the bags obviously taken off so you can see the subframe and you can see some of the swing arm and that type of shit. But it looks
like GP motor. Yeah.
It looks like
that bike's for sale, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, the bike's for sale.
I mean, this is again, this is like probably extreme. Some people are going to look
Mhm.
at this and go, okay, I can see how some people may take this and go, okay, this is maybe another big wheel guy throwing a shit ton of money at it. But the difference
Mhm.
between this and the one I just showed is that this right here just screams business to me. This
Yeah.
screams like
Yeah.
performance. Yeah, it's got a turbo, or does it have a turbo? I can't fucking see
Yeah,
too hard.
it's got
Yeah,
turbo.
it's got
And I
turbo.
think it has I'm not I could be wrong, but it looks like it has tracker wheels off a Sportster. I think I'm probably wrong, but that's the style they look like, which are really nice. I love it. It's got a subframe on it. It's just it's all business. I actually think this bike doesn't run bags. I think he runs it no bags the way you see it here
I like it.
because it doesn't even have rails under it.
Yeah, you're right. Now that I'm looking at it, you're right. It
Yeah,
does. It
he
doesn't
runs
look
no
like
bags.
a Red. Yeah. But see, this is an example of one to the other. You know,
So
Th-
you want to see what my favorite bike in Daytona was? If you're
love.
on the page, I'll show
Yeah,
you.
let's check it
Go
out.
back to the main page
Let
where
me.
you were.
Okay,
The same area. Scroll up a little bit to where you see when Daytona was, right in the middle of the red bike.
hang on.
It's
Let me add this so you can tell me where it's at. Which one?
scroll up a little higher. Stop. The red one.
This one?
Stop. Nope. Go in the middle. Yeah, that bike.
This one.
That was my favorite bike in Daytona.
Okay.
That bike fucks. So everybody thought it was great. The bike is
Are
brand
there
new.
more pictures of it? Okay, there's other angles of it too.
The
Okay.
bike is brand new. It was built by a dealer, Admec Performance Garage. It's a brand new bike, brand new road glide for sale. It's red and chrome. It's understated. It's flashy. It's got like BMX style wheels on it. Everything is chrome plated. I love chrome these days. I love chrome, and it popped so much. This bike, it was so clean. I could tell you my favorite bike in Daytona, and
This one here.
it's nothing like it's so built. First of all, like I mean, the bike is endlessly built, but it's nothing flashy. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
was obsessed with that bike.
This is a good example, I think, of what I'm talking about, and the why I say that it's
Mhm,
the scene has gone, big wheel guys or fucking big wheel
mhm,
mentality. I don't want to call them big
mhm,
wheel guys because I don't know who the fuck it is that's behind them, but the big wheel mentality is here. But this is an example. The black bike that I showed you is an example
mhm,
of how you can still do a well-built bike that fucking
mhm.
is it a stock red?
This one's stock red. It's a
Yeah.
stock bike.
And
Yeah.
it looked fucking
It's just
sharp.
got all chrome bolt-ons. It's all chrome bolt-on stock motor, chrome bolt-ons. It's not overly built. This bike has a lot of style, in my opinion. I'm a big fan of chrome. If I did another bike, I would do chrome. I like chrome and gold on the same bike too. Um, I just think, to me, this bike is a bit out of the box. It sounds ridiculous for me to say that, but everybody does paint these days. Everybody does gold front ends. Everybody does reservoirs. Everybody does everything. You don't see a lot of red bikes. You don't see
Yeah.
a lot of chrome. You don't see a lot of like motocross style wheels. Those BMX style wheels. Um, and people are scared of bright pop color. Like this bright red I love. I love all the billiard colors, the billiard blues, the billiard teals. Harley makes some nice solid color paint
Mhm.
that I think is really nice. This one has the clean moto headlights, the rigid headlights, which are really nice. I to me the bike was just very clean and simple. I like clean and simple. Like I said, this was my favorite bike at the hardcore show, but he's not going to win because it's not a show bike. It's just and it plus it was a dealer bike. The bike had no mileage. It was for sale. So like these that's my thought process. Who deserves to win? Should it deserve to win a show when it's owned by the dealer and you know what I mean? It's for sale. No, because it's not. It doesn't belong to somebody. You know what I mean? Whether somebody paid a shop to build it or somebody worked on it themselves, that to me should win the bike. That should win a trophy. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I don't know, but my mind's, who knows? But
Beauty is in
yes,
the eye of the beholder, and it's a
yeah.
clean looking bike, man. It
Mhm,
actually is a clean looking bike. I was going through Instagram today, and I came across, and I'm sure a friend of yours in the same circle,
mhm.
uh, my machinist, my
Yeah,
machinist,
Justin's bike. Yeah,
and
the G
Justin.
Fresh.
Justin, yeah, and so his bike, and I mean, if you look at his bike from if you just stand back and look at it, probably from the front, you're probably not going to recognize all the stuff and all the things that have been done to that bike. But what I did, and I started just kind of strolling through, I'm a bike advocate. I like cool fucking shit. That's really what it boils down to. And so when I started looking at his bike in depth, in more detail, I've seen pictures of it and I've seen it from a distance, oh, cool bike, and fucking kept on moving and shit. But today I took a little bit of time because I was kind of just looking, okay, what are we going to talk about? Where are we going to go with this? I took some time to go and look at his bike and look through his page and see some of the parts that he's done for it. And I mean, he's a machinist, so there's a huge advantage to that. There's a giant advantage, but it's one color, it's fucking chrome, and it's just it's simple. It's not fucking crazy. This not this crazy paint over the top, fucking shit that is. I think that's where my feelings of that shit just go astray. When you start getting into this big giant paint stuff, because it feels like big bagger scene, big wheel style has entered the chat and jumped into the paint aspect of it. My opinion on the performance bagger stuff is if you're gonna build a performance bagger, then let the performance shine. I think that's at the top of my list of, if you're gonna build one, let the performance shine and let paint complement it. Don't let the fucking paint like steal from all the stuff that's been done to it. And this bike is a good example of that. That black one that I showed you with the turbo, Justin's bike, those are kind of your bike as well. You got just carbon on it. Let the bike kind of speak for itself. Don't fucking take, like, you put all this, you got $80,000 worth of hardware on this damn thing, and then you got $10,000 in paint that's just taken away from it, all because it's just like, wow, look at that paint.
Smoke and mirrors. The funny thing, you talk about Justin's bike, Minty Fresh, I think he calls it. When I got to the hardcore show, the first thing I said when I saw the bike, I saw him the day before and stuff, I'm like, did you enter the bike? He's like, no. I'm like, fuck, I could have just, this would have been done. I would have walked in, just voted you, and walked out of the show. Justin's bike, I gave him number 2 in my top 10 list, and a lot of people said like he deserved to win number 1. So for the record, baddest build of 22, Justin's bike. Nobody could even touch the amount of custom work on that bike. The entire bike is one-off parts. He built everything himself. It's got one-off subframes, one-off foot pegs, one-off everything. If you've seen behind the fairing what it looks like, it's a masterpiece. That bike is it's got a nickel-plated frame.
Let me pull it up here real quick. I'm gonna I think this is the one I was looking at.
That's it. Yeah.
It's like this is a good
Look
example.
At the inside of that fairing. It's cleaner in person, and he rides it. So the only reason that he didn't win Bike of the Year is because it's entirely one-off parts by a machinist who built it himself. So the average person couldn't buy this bike if they wanted. You'd have to buy his bike. But the average person couldn't build this bike, which is the only reason he didn't get first place. It's because it's not a regular bike. It's like, you can't compare a total. You're comparing. You can't compare, a Riddler build to a guy who builds hot rods in your neighborhood. You know what I mean? Like, you can't. They're not the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but this bike is so next level when it comes to build. The performance bagger scene has never seen a custom bagger build the way this bike is built. I'm telling you, every single part is one-off parts. The gas cap is one-off. The risers, he did it with the circle in the middle so you could see through it. Like, there was thought process behind everything, and he's probably made parts because of the parts he's done off that bike. But it's one-off. Everything on this bike, it is a fucking work of art beyond work of art. You know what I mean? And it's a mind-blowing build. It's the best way to describe it.
I'm enjoying it from afar, but this is an example of when you just see this from the front. When you see this picture and you see it from the front, then you're just going to think, it's a road glide, and you probably may not bat another eye at it. But it's when you get down, when you stand behind it and you see this, you're like, hey, where's the rest of this fairing and shit? Or look, these on these tank cutouts, you look like you machine some nice pieces to go inside of there. For me, Daniel, my fucking opinion means nothing. But for me, when your list is your list, but this is a damn good bike to me to say, okay, this is number 1. Now I get it. You made your point very well that there's a lot of things that go into your decision or your choice of why it's going to be this place on the list. But this right here is what I would love people to kind of, obviously, you can call Justin and say, hey, I want this shit. I want you to build me a fucking
Oh,
bike.
that bike is for sale, for the record. If anybody
They're
wants
always
to
for
sell,
sale, buddy.
no, but it's actually for sale. I know he wants to buy more equipment. If somebody's seeing
I
this
got you.
bike, I can tell you as somebody who's seen every performance bagger in the world, this is without fail. It's so above everybody else. It really is. It is a full. This is the Jesse James chopper of performance bagger world. Like as high choppers you get. Like the go back to the headlight. Like you can't even see his headlight bracket. You see there's the machine, the aluminum in between the headlights,
Yeah.
right between that. So that's not a filler panel. There's like a whole CNC big part that supports the whole front fairing and the headlight. It's
All this
one
piece right here.
monster. It's one monster piece of like just CNC. It's beautiful. The bike is a work of art beyond work of art. If somebody has money and the bike is for sale for a reasonable amount of money, very, very, very reasonable amount of money.
Do
So,
you know? Are you allowed to say?
I'm allowed because I might be wrong. I think it's between 60 and 70K. I think.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I
No.
think that's what he's willing to take. And he's gonna buy it, he's gonna sell it, and he'll build another bike and he'll buy more machinery. Justin's an amazing person, he's an amazing guy, he's a friend, and that bike is beyond anything you've ever seen.
I think
That's a trophy.
when you put a 60, 70,000 price tag on a one-off bike, there's different value that comes in that. Because I guarantee you're gonna vouch for this probably. You go buy a brand new bike and then you go and put every doodad onto it, and you're gonna spend 100K. You're gonna be
Oh yeah.
80,
Without
90,
fail.
100K into a full-on paint, inverted Öhlins, every machine part, whatever the fuck you want to throw at it, the motor, all that shit. You're going to be in 75, 80, 90K into the thing. And to get a full blown custom bike. Now, is this for everybody? No, because it doesn't have a radio and it doesn't, it's kind of a stripped
It's
down.
not everybody's cup of tea. It's the same rule. You're gonna get, I'm sure half the people are gonna love it, maybe even less than half. That was another thing I considered in my top 10 list is I am obsessed with this bike. But it was between this and Mark Norton won number one, Big Trouble. Because I'm like, those two bikes, everybody knew they were the two baddest bikes of the year. Mark's bike had mass appeal. Everybody's gonna love that bike. It's a CVO, it's Battleship, full carbon fiber. Nobody's gonna say I don't like that bike.
Yeah.
But there are some people who will say this bike's not for me. I'm not one of them. This bike is the I can't stress how insanely beautiful this bike is to me. You know what I mean? But there's going to be people it's not for them.
Floorboards, and it's got, these are all, I'm sure, machine parts that he made that you're not going to find on another bike.
His donut floorboards, and everybody makes fun of his floorboards, but they're different.
They look comfortable. They look comfortable too.
Not everybody's cup of tea, but he's like he looked at every single part as how can I make it different, and everything is one-off parts.
When you're a machinist, you definitely have that advantage and shit, So I dig it, man. It is a nice bike. I was just digging through some stuff today and I came across this and I thought this would be a good conversation piece when you go from kind of one to the other extreme, so to speak, because that's what we're seeing, man. We're seeing a lot of the paint and we're seeing a lot of the parts and all that.
But we're seeing the Covington performance bagger bikes. So Covington, I'm going to use him as an example. He builds beautiful big wheels. He builds beautiful bikes, but they're show bikes. So now he's building performance bagger bikes, which are also, they're show bikes, but it's performance bagger. And I don't take anything away from it. The bikes are so mind-blowingly beautiful, but there's the big wheel shop that's building beautiful performance baggers, and they're hitting the mark. They're using the right parts. They're building them. They're not doing anything wrong. But it's not us building bikes in our garage. I say
it's not that, but I think again, if you're gonna, for me, I think the separating line, the division, the dividing factor is if you're gonna build a performance bike, then the fucking person sitting on the seat should use it to perform. Not just pull it out of the trailer or just fucking ride it down the freeway and then park it at the show and then go home and shine it all back down.
I also think you should know how to. I always said if you have an inverter front end on your bike, you should install it yourself because you should know how that fucking shit works because it's finicky as fuck. And it's either the best thing you've ever ridden or it's shitty. I can tell you that for somebody who rides one. And I installed my own and I tune it constantly. But then I have friends who have inverted front ends who don't know how to turn a wrench, and they ride the fuck out of their bikes, and they still ride like crazy. So like
Yeah.
nothing ever sticks to anything. But I definitely hear what you're saying. Like you should ride your shit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And if you put so much money, if you dropped 150K on a bike at a shop, and are you gonna be scared to ride that thing down the highway? Are you gonna be scared
Probably.
to rip it into a turn?
Yeah, some people. I think that's what I think that's where the change is come is that yeah, you're
Mhm,
gonna have people now. You have people now that are like, oh fuck, I got to just baby this son of a bitch because I just spent $100,000 on this fucker, and if it goes down, I'm in a world of shit. And
mhm,
I get it. But we do that risk when we fucking ride a $20,000 bike. You know, it's a
mhm,
risk that we all know that we take when we throw our leg over it. But I just posted a video recently of I was sitting here in my garage wiping it down, and I fucking pointed out every chip, every flaw,
mhm,
every this, every that on my bike because from a distance, I call my bike a 50 footer because from 50 feet, it
mhm.
looks fucking good. But once you get up on it, you can
I'm the
tell
same.
that this thing has been ridden. It's got
Mhm,
rock chips. It's got fucking
mhm,
scratched up parts on it. It's not
mhm,
fucking, it's got that character kind of to
mhm.
it. And I
So one thing
go ahead.
I was gonna say, so one thing, so I'm doing a big event in Laconia this year. It's gonna be a really big event. People are gonna look out for it. It's gonna be bike show, DJ, stunt show, the works. It's gonna be a really fun event. It's at night, so you're not stuck in the middle all day. We're putting something really cool together. And one thing I say I want to do, I find it unfair that if you built your bike last year, you're not gonna win best bagger this year. You know what I mean? Like at one of the shows I was at, the best bike at that show was a 3-year-old build, but he's not going to win because it was built 3 years ago. Somebody who's got a new build that's not as nice is going to win because it's brand new. So at my show, I will do a heritage trophy. Or I'm going to do a trophy for the best, and I'm going to do a trophy for the guy who deserves to win because he built the bike 5 years ago, 6 years ago, but it's still the baddest bike at the show because I
Fuck
think
that.
that's
Just pick
important.
the one that's the baddest. It don't matter if that fucking thing
Yeah.
was built 5 years ago and it's still better than the one that was
Mhm.
built last week.
Mhm.
Well, then
Mhm.
fucking that bike fucking deserves to
Yeah,
fucking win more than the next.
but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't work that way. So, like, but
Yeah,
I think that's important. People don't recognize that, and that's why guys are constantly switching their bikes and constantly rebuilding, constantly selling, and which works again our star scene. Build your bike, let it be a bad bike, and just be proud to ride it the entire time you own it. You know what I
agree.
mean? You don't have to reinvent yourself every year, which I don't think a lot of people are, but a lot of people feel like they need to constantly.
Yeah,
I get the shops have to do that. You don't have a choice if you're a shop, but if you're just a regular guy and you have a cool bike, like you. I don't know. I don't know when the shows became important to the scene. You know,
as
I'm
soon, as soon as it hit mainstream, as soon as it fucking like
the
as soon
shows
as
became important.
it shows became important, and that's that.
Mhm.
You I see that around here, and in fucking Southern California, I see it more than probably
Yeah,
anywhere in the fucking world, man.
yeah,
Or the rock
for
store
sure.
or wherever, and you're all in the next week you see the guy that had the fucking this part, and next week he has even more shit on it because he's trying to keep up with the guy
Hmm.
that showed him up the previous week or some bullshit. That's the
Hmm.
always trying to be relevant.
Hmm.
A friend of mine says it, man. It's not about the scene, SCENE. It's about being seen,
Hmm.
SEEN now, and that's and
Hmm.
when he told me that, I go, yeah. Sadly, I see that more here in Southern California than probably other places do in the world. And
100%. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure, dude. For sure you do. But that's like it's like when the shows become really, really important, is that the end of the culture? Is that when the culture is really like doomed? I don't know. Because
yeah,
that's when the big wheel shops are gonna come out. That's when the trophies come out. And like I said, I go to shows constantly. I've never once entered my bike into a show. And if I do, I think it's unfair. My bike went into a show local here, and I told them not to put my bike in the show. I was out of town. I let a dealer take my bike. And like, oh, you won. I'm like, it's not fair for me to be in that show, and it's not a show bike. I don't care.
yeah,
So even my own bike show next summer will be the anti bike show. I'm trying to figure. It's going to be a meet, and we're going to do trophies. I'm trying to figure out how I can make it general public and a bike show in one area because I don't know. Like people like bike shows. I get it, but
yeah,
they're not important. What's important
no,
is the ride. What's important is what you did before you got to the show, and
yeah.
like that to me is the important part of it because that's if we for if you forget that, then what's the point of being on a motorcycle? You know what I mean? The best part of these bikes is riding them. Hands down, the best part. You know, maybe I'm a Canadian. I only get to ride 5 months of the year. I went to Daytona. I was thrilled to ride. I was so annoyed because there's no riding. You know what I mean? I rode to a show. I rode to Miami. I rode straight. There's not a fucking turn in Florida, but at least I was on my bike. And I miss riding tremendously between winter and having young kids. I don't get out as much as I used to. But the one thing I'll always say to everybody is ride your fucking bike. Like ride it. You don't have to be a hero. You don't have to ride fast. Just enjoy riding that fucking bike. And if you build this bike properly, the best thing of this trend is if you do all of your upgrades should make your bike run better. Everything you do should make it run better. So you're not doing shit just cosmetic stuff. Yeah, there's some cosmetic stuff. Carbon fiber is not going to make it run better, but it's going to make it a little lighter. Like just you always have to like the goal is to make your bike better with every single part, which is contrary to every other car and motorcycle thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Yeah. Yep.
No,
I think that's a good way, a good thing to remember. When you're building these style of bikes, build it and do it for whatever your riding style is, you know, but do it for purpose, man. I have my homeboys over there at Purpose Built Motorcycles. I've been friends with those guys for fucking since Facebook page and shit, man. And that is where I started with them a little bit and just went, yeah, this is purpose built. This means something. I understand exactly what this means. So I'm an advocate. I think that's a great thing to do, man. So my last question, so we can kind of wrap this up. I know it's a little late where you're at. I guess, can it be saved? Can it kind of go back to its glory days? Are we too far deep? Are we, what do you think, man?
I mean, I don't think it needs to be saved. I think it's still fun. I think it's still cool. I think when I think people need to remember that this is fun. This is a hobby. Don't take it too seriously.
I think that's what I mean. Can it be saved? Because I think we've crossed that.
Can it go back to there?
We've crossed that line of fucking competitive and making it a show bike versus, fuck, man, that's a cool fucking bike. Tell me about that shit. I want to know about it versus competing with the Joneses.
I think if you're in a position where it's not fun for you anymore, you should go ride your motorcycle. And I think a lot of people, it can't be said. Like, there's gonna be the people who are just gonna fuck it and get on their bike and ride and don't give a fuck. Like, stop taking shit too seriously. This is a fucking hobby. This is a fucking motorcycle. Stop taking all this shit too seriously. I wish people would say that. Who cares about the trophy? Who cares about this? Who cares about that? If you have a vested interest, if you own a shop and you need your parts to be the best, I get it. You do have vested interest, but I know a lot of these guys who are just kind of they're not happy with the scene. They're not happy with everything. But like, you just got to remember that you're working, you're living, our hobbies. It's a hobby. None of this shit is necessary for you to live. You know what I mean? So there's no beyond. We're not beyond anything. And when you're miserable, when you think this is shit, when you think this is garbage, get on your bike and go for a fucking ride with somebody you actually like. So I definitely think it. I definitely think it's gone to a point where it's a different culture and it's a different world, and it's not the scene it was 4 or 5 years ago when it was super chill and everybody knew each other. It's not the same, you know. Sturgis 2019, I went and stayed in a house with 30 guys that are from all over the country. That shit's not going to happen anymore. There's too many, you know. There's cultures. There's these people, and these guys don't get along with these. But to me as an outsider, you know, everybody thinks I'm an insider. I'm an outsider, but like, to me as an outsider, like, stop caring so much, you know, like that is it a performance bagger battle that's going on forever? And I know that you're an advocate for that, like you don't like the name. For me, I stopped caring about that a year ago. If some kid has a bagger and he puts T-bars on and he wants to call it a performance bagger, let him do it. Doesn't change anything for any of us, you know what I mean? I don't need the category. The fucking ST, Harley's selling a performance bagger. Like, it's just a name. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm saying, like, can it be saved? Yeah, for sure it can be saved, because it's your own attitude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just the way you see it.
When I ask, can it be saved, like it's fucking doomed and it's like way past, you know, repair. Here's what I guess why I say that, because when I go and sit around at Rock Store or Neptune's, or I'm in a circle of people that have that style of bike, right? The conversations are not about, fuck, man, I almost ate shit coming around that corner. You see me fucking railing down that, like, that's not the conversation that's being had anymore. The conversation that's being had now is, "Hey, what kind of seat is that?" "Fuck yeah, man, I got it from so and so, and it's this it's those." It's always like part, this, that, fucking adding this, fucking the next thing I'm gonna fucking do, and da 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 da. That's when I know I feel like, okay, it's got to a damn point where can it get reeled back into, you built this fucking bike, you're at least your the vision, what you're selling on your performance bagger, you built it to go and just ride the piss out of it, and you built it to ride like no other bagger has been ridden before. And the conversation is just about what parts are next, and I can't wait for this next part to come out, and I got the latest fucking pipe, and I got the latest machine part. The conversations aren't about fucking like hey,
how's it ride?
What the fuck, man? It's riding like dog shit right now. You think you can help me adjust this suspension, or there's something wrong with there? It's not about, hey, next weekend we're gonna go and ride over here. Let's do a camping trip, or let's go fucking out on. Those aren't the conversations that are being had anymore. The conversations around the water cooler talk is always about having the best parts and what the next upgrade is going to be, and like standing next to your bike. I see it at Neptunes all the time, and that's probably the shitty place to say it, because that's the mecca or whatever. I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But anytime we're at Neptunes, you can fucking spot the guy that's just standing by his bike waiting for the fucker to come and talk to him, like, oh yep, I'll wait for this guy to come talk to me so I can give him all the details about my shit. I fucking park my bike in the front and I walk fucking away, and I'll stand and go, oh yeah, that guy's checking out my bike. I don't give two shits if he got, if I'm around and I'm drinking my beer and I'm standing next to my bike, I'll answer the questions. But I'm not running over there, and I'm not waiting for like, oh yeah, I got one. I reeled in a fucking marlin and now I got this guy hooked. Those are the conversations that are being had now. And that's when I ask and say,
can it be safe?
Go back to fucking like being cool on these fucking bikes?
I think the answer is simple. Don't go to those places. You're a product of the environment.
It's everywhere.
It is. It's not as bad. Yes, you're right. It is everywhere. I guess it just, like I said, to me, I think you're in California. Everything is exponential in California. You know what I mean? The shows are bigger. The people are bigger. It's a swing and dick contest everywhere you go. At Neptunes, you pull up on a bike, for sure. Everybody's comparing stuff. I think for me, Northeast, it's not the same. It's a smaller community. We don't care as much. Trust me.
Look, you go to Daytona, you go to Laconia, you go to.
I felt it in Daytona. 100%. I felt it in Daytona.
So it's not just over here. It's other places too.
It's everywhere. But then at the end of the day, I jump on my bike with my buddy and we go riding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, it's a mindset. So I can remove myself from bullshit. There's noise everywhere in all your life, and in work and everything you do, and like I said, the scene isn't the same it was back then, and I have my own opinions on where I think things are now, where they were before. That I'll keep to myself. I don't need to talk about it. But like, good or bad, at the end of the day, I could jump on my bike and with my best friend and go for a ride, and that's all I want to do. And that's what Daytona was for me. You know what I mean? I didn't stay at a house. Like, everybody was like, oh, stay at our house. We have an Airbnb. Blah, blah, blah. Everybody offered me somewhere to stay. My closest friend and I went down to Daytona together. We stayed at a hotel because at the end of the day, I just wanted to leave. Let him and I go ride the beach a little bit, go rip here and there, do whatever we want. Like, I think just do your own thing. You know what I mean? Don't follow these masses. Like, can it be safe? If you're the kid who built a bike because your friends built the bike and you don't enjoy the riding and it's not, these guys, that they're going to come and go. You know what I mean? They're flying the van. The guys you're talking about, these guys with the seat, in a year, 2 years from now, that bike is going to be sitting in the garage and they're not going to be riding it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The guys who ride, that your people, those are the people that you care about. Everybody else is just noise. You know what I mean? Just ignore it. So that's what I mean. Like, I don't think it needs to be saved because the people are going to come and go. You know what I mean? The shit's going to come and go. The trend is going to come and go, but I'll still be riding. You're still going to be riding. 10 years from now, you might not be on a bagger. You might be on a fucking, who knows what the fuck Harley's going to, we're all going to be on trikes in 10 years from now.
Oh God, I hope it's not that early. I'll be on a trike when I can't hold one up. Don't get it twisted. I'll still
be got that new Road Glide trike.
Yeah, I'll still be on something, man. I've said it before. I'll say it again, man. I will still be ripping and railing on my air quotes performance bagger, and I hope that because I don't want to say it like in a negative way, but I will be totally okay with if in 5 years the whole trend and and all the fat is gone and I'm still the fucking one guy going, still here, motherfuckers, because this is what I like, and I built my bike to do this and handle this way. I'm still fucking here, whether it's cool or not. I'm still fucking here. So
that's your answer for can it be saved? Doesn't need to be saved because you're still going to be there. You're still going to be riding. You're still going to be enjoying it. So whatever noise is going around and whatever bullshit is going on, it's going to come and go, and they're going to jump on the next wave, and we'll still be here. And like my page says, performance is not a trend. Do I think it's going to last? I think it's going to last. I think, if you look at a tuner scene, there's so many styles that come and go out of cars and tuners and wheels and stance and blah, blah, blah. But just a well-built car, performance-built car is steady. You know what I mean? You look at a tuner car from the 90s, a Civic that was built in the 90s, like a Type R with all the best parts. It's still 20, 30 years later, it's still as badass as it was 30 years ago. Hopefully, we're on the same line as that. Hopefully. You know what I mean? And then all the crazy paints and all the flashy everything go away. And then the guys who are just running good parts, good suspension out there riding, hopefully that's still left behind. And we will always have a place in this world. You know what I mean? Which has never really happened in the Harley world before, but maybe this is where we are. You know what I mean? And then let everybody come and go. We'll be here. I'll be old.
Performance strike. Yeah, I'll be more old and wrinkled and, probably fatter, a couple of pounds heavier or something. Who knows?
I'm already old and wrinkled. I got you deep.
So, but hey, man, this was this was good. I'm
glad, Ray.
I hope this I think this conversation went for me. It went the way that I wanted it to go. The topics, the discussions that I kind of wanted to touch on with you, and I'm glad that. We're still men. We're gonna have difference of your top 10 may not always fucking land on my on my shit, but but that's what men can do, and I'm glad that we were able to just fucking go, hey man, I'm cool. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk. It speaks and says a lot of your character, my character. There's still some people that are out there that have a fucking I've tried to stick my hand out. It's got slapped away a couple of times, and so be it. But that's what
you definitely had good timing when you reached out. You had really good timing. I was in my head. I was like, you reached out. I'm like, fuck. Okay, fine. Let's do it. And then maybe a couple days later, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't agree, but whatever. You know what? Like I said with you, I don't have any energy for anything negative in my life. You reached out. Let's just straighten it out, and we're good. I'm happy. I'm a very easygoing, happy guy in my life. Every day of my life it should be better than the day before. So it's very gimmicky, but
good
it's true.
Philosophy to have, man. And a lot of people said the same about you. A lot of people that, trust me, man. I know when I throw a stone, sometimes, when it's going to get casted back at me. People have given me, the advice. They've offered me the shit, and and in some of those conversations, they've had good thing. Not they've had, but they do say good things like your character, your type of person you are. And so I knew that, I had a sense of it, man. But not all things need to end badly, right? We can fucking mend fences and mend gates and that type of shit, man, and move forward. And this is good conversation to have. I don't think we didn't bash shit. We didn't fucking go off on a tangent or anything. I think it's real conversation of real things that are happening. Just not, just we're talking performance stuff, but within the Harley culture and scene and kind of industry, So
we're just a couple guys who've been loving this trend, this scene for a long time, and we're just talking about the where it started, where it is now. That's all it is, and we can have this conversation in another 3 years, and we'll see where it is then.
We'll see what I mean. Choppers are coming back.
Choppers are coming back. Yeah, I'm not going to be on one. There's no way. I had my hardtail. I have no desire to be back on a hardtail. I don't know. Meanwhile, I say that. Who knows? Never say never.
Yeah, never say never. I would like to build one and just have a little bar hopper. Nothing that I'm not trying to, impress anybody and do, oh, you did, cross country. No. I don't need to do that to myself anymore,
No, you could have my hardtail, I sold it to a guy and it's parked in his office as a piece of art. Swear to God. Never even rode it.
He knows why he wanted it, man. So the next trend though, if it's not already here, I think it is slightly skinny tires, right? That's
skinny tire bagger. Yeah.
Skinny tire bagger, man. That's I saw it about 6 months ago. I'm like, okay, that's where I think that's where the next trend for this performance stuff is going to go. just like when the soft tails came out, everybody wanted the Dynas, and they went nostalgia with the old Dynas because the soft tails aren't, they're not available anymore, and the price skyrocketed on all those. And I started seeing the price of the skinny tires start to go up and up and up. And I think that's going to be the next trend of this performance bagger thing. They're going to start finding the older shit, and they're going to start building some of that. So I'm banking on that because I got one of those sitting over here. So when I'm ready to sell, you know what they sell, you know what they say, buy low, sell high, right?
Yeah, no, that's good. And I'm going to tell everybody who's listening, stop hating on the new fucking bikes. Stop hating because you will eventually be on that platform. So there's no point in hating on it because I will dig up that comment that you made on December 26, 2023, and 5 years ago when you have this bike. And I will say, here, look, remember you made the stupid comment? Stop hating on the new baggers, and I will be on one as quickly as I get my hands on it.
This, by the way, is the new one. This is the Road Glide. Yeah, I saw a couple pictures of it about a week or so ago, but
with that weird angle.
Yeah, and I get why people are saying and talking about that it looks like the Indian. I get it. It's got Indian-esque, I guess, just with are the lights fucking like, is that what I'm seeing?
It's like a Cyclops kind of big light in the middle, and then it's got like two strips along the side for, I guess, for blinkers. So they removed the flashers off it. And it's kind of in there. It has that Harley inverted front end. It has Brembos. This one's clearly a CVO. It's got the CVO wheels, but we'll see.
It's gonna take off. You're right, man. Just let it be, guys. It's gonna take off like everything else does. I hate it. Everyone hated the Rushmore fairing when it came out, and then everyone wanted that at some point, and then eventually the Rushmore is gonna be old news. This is gonna be the new trend. This is gonna
everybody hated M8s. Everybody hated twin cams. Everybody hated soft tails. Every single everybody was allowed to hate the live wire, right? And they were right. That bike fucking sucked. Nobody likes it. But even the new Sporties, they're kind of cool. I'm just saying, like this bike is what everybody's asking for. You know what I mean? And we're gonna make it cool for sure. We're gonna make it cool.
All you need is a shop like San Diego Customs or Cruci Originals or you need some shop just to fucking put their spin on it, and then everybody's gonna drool over it, and they're gonna go and throw down money to have theirs built or have theirs look like San Diego Customs or somebody that comes out with some tough shit looking.
I will do my best to be one of the first adopters of this bike when it's available.
I like
as long as they come out with a regular one, not a special, not a CVO.
I can appreciate being the forefront, taking the charge and being the one at the front of the pack. I can appreciate that.
No problem. I have a lot of friends. We'll do something cool.
Well, thanks, I appreciate you, man. Thank you. Go get some rest. Thank you for taking some time with this, man. Maybe we'll do it again sometime, and we'll have a good one. All right.
Take care, man.
Later, man.
Buddy. Bye.
All right. Pigs are not flying. Daniel and I sat down, had a nice little conversation. I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a very good dialogue, very good conversation. It is what I expected. This is the first podcast that I actually did some, wanted to make sure that we kind of touched on some notes. And I think we went right down the list kind of from beginning to end. And so thank you guys very much for tuning in. I hope you guys take something from this. I hope you guys, whether it's good, bad, and different, gives you a different perspective on the scene. Maybe you weren't familiar with the history and the culture. Maybe when Daniel came into it, when I came into it, and where we have seen it evolve from beginning to now, I guess, and where our opinions kind of lie on that. So thank you guys for tuning in. Going to be posted here on the podcast here very soon. But if you guys haven't already, go and check out the YouTube page. A bunch of cool videos on there, some vlogging stuff, just some cool, fun stuff. Go check out all the other podcasts that are loaded. I think we got over 70 podcasts on there now. And of course, go check out the Instagram, Throttled Roots. That's where you're going to find everything. Throttled Roots on Instagram, throttledroots.com, Throttled Roots on Spotify, on iTunes. That is where you're going to find everything under the name Throttled Roots. So there's a ton of stuff for you guys to go and check out and geek out on and have fun with. So, and hope you enjoyed this one. You guys have a damn good night. Thank you. We'll see you on the next one. All right. Later.